You're listening to Storage Nerds Podcast, where we unravel the best-kept secret of the real estate investing world, the storage industry. Join the grassroots guru in self-storage, Stacey Rossetti, in insightful discussions about finding, funding, and running these spaces, allowing you to yield the highest returns possible. Get your foot in the door on self-storage and discover how to properly purchase facilities, negotiate with sellers, and close the deal without worries. Start unpacking that investment wisdom with Stacy right now.
So I want to talk about the stages of investing in self-storage and getting started in self-storage, okay? Because you guys are all here to learn. And I see Jimmy's from Clarksville. So we have a storage facility in Clarksville, Jimmy. It's called Cherry Station Storage. All right, so you can go by, take a look at it. We just put all new gravel down. We put a new gate. We put a couple new gates in. We're about to put the signs up because we just bought this facility, but we basically graded it and re-graveled it because it was really bad, and did a lot of auctions because it was a severely mismanaged facility. We did a lot of auctions and increased the rates and put new fencing in and put gates in to the facility. So if you want to drop by, you're more than welcome to. It's called Cherry Station Storage. Check it out. Okay. Let's see. Okay. All right. So we're going to talk about the stages. Okay. I want to get you guys in and get started. And I talk about this quite often. Okay, but you have, 4 stages to getting started in self-storage investing. Okay, and the first stage is where most of you are here on this session, which is I need to find a facility that I can buy. I need to get it under contract. And so this stage 1 is the goal is to get a storage facility under contract. Okay, which is like this stage of all the stages that you see here is the hardest stage. This is the stage that most people give up on. All right, this is the stage where everybody's at, but most people give up on. And so I want you to know that what I'm going to show you for stage 1 is the hardest part of the whole process. Because once you get a storage facility under contract, then what you have to do is you got to find funding. Now, if it's a good deal, you'll be able to find funding. Okay. Now, it's a little bit trickier nowadays because the market is, a little bit more difficult. But the truth is that, I have a student that's closing on a storage facility tomorrow. She got it owner financed. Okay. So, I have another student that's closing on a facility. It's a $2.3 million facility, and he's getting it financed with an SBA loan. All right. And so, I'm seeing deals getting funded. If it's a good deal, it'll be able to get funded, so I don't want you to think, everybody always thinks this is the hardest part, but the truth of the matter is getting it under contract is the hardest part because it takes the most amount of effort to be able to get something under contract, because the truth is it's just a numbers game. That's it. It's just a numbers game. Let me fix this screen. It's annoying me here. Yeah, spotlight for everybody. Okay, good. So this is the hardest part. And then once you get the facility under contract, you're like, okay, crap. Now, how am I going to fund this thing, right? But then all the while that you're trying to get the funding, what you're also doing is onboarding your facility. Okay, so onboarding means that, you have to do, like, you are buying a business as a storage. As somebody that wants to get into self-storage investing, you're buying a business. Although you're buying a piece of property, right? You're really buying a business, honestly. So a lot of people think, oh, it's real estate investing, but you're really buying a business, So, and the truth of the matter is like your business is only as valuable as how you manage the property and how you set up your systems and your automations and how you treat your tenants and like how you take your payments, right? So all of the things that you need in order to be able to have a successful business needs to be set up before you even buy them. What? Before you even buy them, you have to start setting all this stuff up. You got to start thinking ahead to the future, right? So in stage 2, you're thinking, okay, what are my goals for this facility and for myself and for my storage goals, right? So one of the things that you're doing in stage 2 is you're like trying to figure out what software you want. And so you can't just go and just get like, the cheapest software and be like, yeah, I'm gonna get the cheapest software, because the cheapest is not like, this is not the best. A lot of times it's not the best for what your goals are. If you're the type of person that like maybe only wants to buy one storage facility, or maybe you're only going to just ever buy facilities in like sub-tertiary markets, and you're only ever going to buy 50 units or less, maybe cheap is the way you want to go. All right. But like if you're planning on like growing your portfolio, or if you want to make this truly passive income where you're like not having to do as much work as possible, then you need to really do a lot of demos on every single like property management software out there. And you need to make sure that you're picking the right one that you're going to be able to grow with as you grow and automate and systematize your facility. So nobody told me that. Like nobody told me that when I started getting in self-storage investing. Nobody was specific about that. Nobody was really teaching it anyways. There wasn't hardly, now there's like a whole bunch of people teaching, but like there wasn't anybody ever teaching that. So I just went out, and luckily back when I got started, 7 years ago, there was really only three property management softwares on the market. So like I did demos for all 3 of those softwares. And luckily I picked a software that is just growing and becoming probably one of the best softwares on the market, but it's also one of the most expensive softwares on the market, right? So I've seen all the changes. I use StorEdge is what I use, but I've seen the changes over the last like 7 years of how storage has really developed into this like enterprise solution. But along the way, I had to go through those growing pains with StorEdge, and also the price increases and and everything as well too. So but storage now really automates and systematizes everything that you can think of that you would need to be able to do in order to run your business and make it as passive as you possibly can. Storage does that, but a lot of the softwares don't do that, but then they come at cheaper prices. Okay, so then you have to really do a demo and say, okay, do I really want to pay X amount of dollars, or am I okay with not doing those things and automating them and I do them? So it's a lot of like kind of thought process going behind which software that you're going to pick, because switching a software over, like once you own a facility, is horrible. It's horrible. All right. So like you just don't want to go through that process. Well, a lot of people do that. They start with one and then they switch over, but you lose a lot of tenants in the long run when you do that. Okay. All right, so picking out your software, and then also and the main reason that this is so important in the onboarding phase is because you need to be able to take payments. The only way that you're going to make money is if you can take payments. So like when you get a facility under contract, your first thought is, okay, on day 1, I need to be able to take payments for the storage facility. What do I need to do in order to be able to take payments? Because when I switch over, then flip the switch, and the other owner says like, oh, I no longer own this property, call Stacy, then you have to be ready for that. And the truth of the matter is that nobody told me that when I got started investing in self-storage. Nobody told me on my first facility that I need to be able to take payments on day 1. So honestly, we did not do anything. We did not do any of this. And it took us like months to get our software set up, because the onboarding process for software does take forever. It takes a long time. So you want to make sure you're planning that while you have the facility under contract, and not like a week before you close, be like, oh crap, I don't have software, which I've seen done many, many times. Okay. So all right, software. Okay, so funding, onboarding, and then getting your software set up. I'm not going to go all deep into this right now, but that's what stage 2 is. Stage 3 is when you're like, now you own the property. Okay, so now you are like, you're transferring ownership. Okay, and that is like, so you have the software set up, but your tenants have to get into your software. right? They have to get in, you know how it is, right? Online, where you go and you set up your account, and then you got to put your credit card information, your information in there. And the software companies, they kind of put the basics in, but they can't put credit card information in. You can't transfer credit card information. And even contracts, a lot of times you can't transfer you can't, because you have to get your own new contract signed. So in this stage, in this stage, you're getting your merchant account and your software and your contract ready, so that when you own the property, you're able to say to your tenants, please just go onto your account, sign your contract, put your information in, your credit card information in, and then that's it, we're done. All right. And if you can make the easiest that you can make this process, the better, the more you're going, the less of a chance you will lose tenants. If it's like a complicated process where you're having to like walk tenants through and you're just like pissing them off, then like most likely you're going to lose a lot of tenants. Okay, so that's the stage 2 and the stage 3. And this stage, typically you're under contract. I mean, you're really under contract for anywhere from like 60 to 120 days, right? And on this one here too, it's taking you, depending on how big your facility is, it's taking you anywhere from 60 to 120 days to really stabilize, get everybody into the system and stuff. Okay. And this right here, under contract, this could take anywhere from 60 to 120 days, right? So I'm showing you also the time frame of how long this is going to take for you to achieve this goal. Remember, I told you at the very beginning of the session that my philosophy in life, I do everything super slow. Like it looks like I'm like fast and I'm getting stuff done, but the truth is like slow and steady wins the race. And this is like a huge like philosophy in our household. I tell this to my daughter Lillian all the time. Pete and I talk about this all the time. It's like everything's a process. It takes a long time, but just as long as you keep moving forward and you're creating momentum, or doing everything that you need to do, then it's going to be good, right? So now you're just seeing 7 years of me being slow and steady. That's what you're seeing. So you may be starting now and thinking, how the heck did Stacy do all this in 7 years? But it's really just me taking like micro steps, baby steps. My coach calls it micro steps. It's like baby steps. I'm always moving forward, always working on all my projects, always doing the things that I need to do in order to achieve the goal that may take years to achieve, like my book, right? Okay. And then automate and systematize. Okay, is stage 4. So automating and systematize. And this is after you've owned your facility for like 60 days to 120 days, depending on how big it is. You're like, you've got your tenants in the system, you're kind of getting a hang of how it's working, you've got your maintenance stuff done, you got your phones to kind of figure it out. And now you're like, okay, how can I really make this truly passive income? How can I make it so that I don't have to do all the work? How can I make it so that I can increase my tenants, increase my vacancy, maybe add on or expand? So you're thinking about the future in this stage right here. And this is typically for 60 to 120 days after, right, you own the facility. And after you own the facility and transfer the ownership, you're like, okay, I kind of feel like I can look for another facility. I'm kind of feeling like I've got things under control. Let me really dig into the software that I picked, and let me really utilize everything in the software that they have to offer. I want to make sure that I'm utilizing the reports. I want to make sure that I'm utilizing the accounting. I want to make sure my auction processes are being done correctly. I want to make sure that I've got dynamic pricing and yield management. I really want to make sure that I'm doing what I need to be doing in order to always keep my occupancy up. My marketing is doing very well. How can I truly automate all this stuff? All right. So that's what's happening kind of in this time period after you own your facility. Okay. And then after you're in this area, you're also thinking, okay, let me maybe start looking for another facility. Now you can see that if you're doing 60 to 120 days per stage, right? That's going to be, you could be 2 years into this for one facility, you could be 2 years, okay, to getting to the point where you feel like you could buy another one. And I tell my students, your goal is like one facility. Now, some people buy more than one facility, but I'm going to tell you, I had one student, he bought 4 facilities in 1 year. One student bought 3, another one bought 4, and they were just like, it just was utter chaos for them. All right. And, I kept telling them, I was like, just work on the facilities that you have, but they're like, no, I want more. But the truth is like, unless you have a big setup, unless you have like a true asset management team. I mean, even us, like we bought 4 facilities in the last year, and my husband is like running around like a crazy person. Okay. So even us that we know what we're doing, we're still like, going around, like we're still trying to figure everything out, so let's say slow and steady wins the race. For us personally, we bought 1 facility. We realized that we love storage. So the next year we bought another facility, right? And then after that, we bought 2 facilities, and then we bought 3 facilities. Right. So we had it was like 5, 6, 7 around 7 facilities. And I was going to buy 8, 9, and 10 on the next year. I had one owner with 3 facilities. And on the day before the closing, he backed out. So I didn't get to buy those facilities. I was so upset because I'd worked so hard to raise the money and get the funding and get everything all ready. And he just got cold feet and he just backed out. But so then that year I didn't buy anything. And so then the next year I was like, that's it. Like we're buying a lot of facilities, so that's when I started really buying. About 4, and then we bought another 4, and then my husband was like, that's it. Like we need to stabilize these properties. We need to really get good at managing these properties. So that's kind of how the thought process for us internally works. And if you're thinking to yourself, yeah, for 2024, I'm going to buy 4 properties, like you just have to realize that this management, look at this. Stage 1 is where you're getting a facility under contract, and stage 2, 3, and 4 are like the bulk of you owning a storage facility. And most people do not get past the funding part. They think about the finding and the funding, but the finding and the funding is just barely a little sliver of the entire process of getting into self-storage investing, right? Your onboarding, your ownership, and your automations are going to take up, a year, if not years, of you owning this facility. Okay. So hopefully that gives you some insight into how the whole process goes. This is how I teach all my students. This is the process that I see my students doing. That's how I came up with the stages. I did not realize that I was going through these stages until I started really teaching. And so that's how I came up with this process. Okay. All right. So now let's get into stage 1 a little bit. Okay. And let's kind of dive deeper into that, so you guys know what are my next steps. Like I'm in stage 1. What do I need to be doing now? Okay, so let's do that. Let's pull this up. Stage 1. All right. Okay. Now, the stage 1 is obviously educating yourself on how the whole process works. So you're here listening to me, you bought my course, you bought the deal analyzer, and you are ready to educate yourself and get into this industry. Okay, that's stage 1. All right, education. I mean, that's step 1, education. Okay, give yourself some time to really learn how this industry works. But the real steps, like so that you can put an offer in, and the way that I teach is like you want to build a list of owners. Build list of owners. Okay. In the areas that you're interested in, right? So you don't have to be interested in an area that's near you. All right. You don't have to be interested in an area where you live. Okay. But what you need to do is just figure out what areas you're interested in. I'm going to tell you, pretty much any area that you're interested in is going to be fine, okay, for storage. I mean, I got students buying all over the country, okay? So, any area is going to be fine. So whatever area you're interested in, just as long as it's, all right, a stable or growing economy. Okay, stable or growing. Now, in like a lot of smaller tertiary or sub-tertiary markets, there is a lot of there is a little bit of you'll always see like declining of maybe 1%. So for instance, one of my virtual assistants found a storage facility in Kentucky, in a little tiny town in Kentucky. And it's like 385 people like in that town. Now, obviously, when you look at the demographics and you see a town of 385 people, you're like, okay, do I want to buy a storage facility there? And the declining population is like a 1%. So if you have 385 people and 1% leave, how many people are leaving? 3? Okay. All right. And then you have to look at like the history of that town. You have to look at the history of the town. All right, so has it always been 300? Like if you look at the history from like 1900 or like 1950 to like 2000s, it's always been like a couple hundred people. All right, so obviously it's a little tiny town in the middle of Kentucky. It's super old school, and there's like a storage facility, 1 or 2 storage facilities there. Okay. Now, the question is, should I buy a storage facility in this area? I own a facility in a little tiny town in Georgia, and it's got 60 units, and it's full. Right. And I bought it for $100,000. It's probably worth about $350,000. So I made, 200, I'm going to make 250 grand on it. And I haven't been to that facility in years. I mean, in years. The lawn person that mows the lawn is also the boots on the ground person that like takes care of everything else. And he really just handles everything. So, I mean, for us to really not do anything in this facility, except for maybe go once or twice a year to check on it, and our phone person to take new tenants when needed, it's like for 200 grand or 250 grand, what's the big deal? I mean, I don't know, I work way harder on bigger facilities making more money than I do on that little tiny facility. So, but also what you want to look at is the radius, right? The population radius. Okay. So the town that we're in is like maybe 300 or 400 people, but the radius in like a 5-mile radius is like 6,000 people. And then a 10-mile radius is like 12 or 13,000 people. Okay. And there's only a few storage facilities in that area, honestly. So there's not a lot of competition. We're the only storage facility in that town. And with like a 12-mile radius, I think there's maybe a handful, like 3 or 4, and that's it. Okay. So, they don't really have all these 12,000 people don't have a lot of options to go to. And so that's why we're full, so. But, so I keep saying tertiary, but I want you to know it's primary, secondary, and tertiary. Tertiary just means country, like it's just in the middle of the country, so it's like not in a secondary market. A secondary market is a town that stands all by itself. That's not like a major city. Okay. And then the primary market is obviously the major cities in your state, and then all of the suburbs that go with those. Okay. So, so for instance, we own a facility in Fayetteville, Georgia, which is a suburb of Atlanta. That is a primary market. Even though Fayetteville only has like maybe 40,000 people in it, it's still considered a primary market. Okay. So that's kind of what I'm talking about, primary, secondary, and tertiary markets. Now, if you want to know if these areas are stable or growing, or in a tertiary market, if it's declining, what does the declining market look like in like a 10-mile radius? And when you're looking at facilities in the area, that's what you want to look at. Like how much competition within a 10-mile radius is in for the tertiary market. So this is 10 miles. And the secondary market would be maybe anywhere from 1 to 3 miles, depending on or we'll say 1 to 5 miles, depending on how much of where is it in the secondary market. So for instance, we own a facility in Valdosta. And Valdosta has 75,000 people. It's not it's a big city. It's a big town, I guess, but it's not primary market. And there's no Cube Smart. I think there's like 1 Cube Smart downtown, and that's it. And all the rest are really just kind of bigger players, but they play the secondary market. And so our competition, we're looking at every facility in that, in that city, as a competition, because there's just not a lot. I can look at like 10 or 15, competitors to see, what they're all charging and stuff. And then this primary market is typically going to be less than 1 mile. All right. So it just depends on the location, but you want to figure out what location that you want to be in. You don't really, unless you can afford $3 million plus, you don't really want to be in a primary market. If you can afford $3 million or less, then you can really search the secondary market. But if you can't afford, $1 million or less, then you should not be in, in secondary markets. I mean, secondary markets are expensive markets. Okay. So you figure out what market you want to be in. And this is where you start building your list of storage facilities that you can call, just any storage facility. And the way that we do that is you just go onto Google Maps or Apple Maps. So Apple Maps has declared that they're going to be the competitor of Google Maps in the search engine. So they're really pushing to grow their search engine capabilities. They really want to be up there with Google Maps. Obviously, Google Maps is the largest search engine in the country right now. So you use that. But if you have an iPhone, you can also just get on your iPhone and go on to Apple Maps and then search, storage near me. All right, and start, or storage in the city, that storage Valdosta, right? And then start looking at all the facilities and building that out. Okay. And then your goal when you build this list, after you figure out what markets you're interested in, you build the list out, and then you're going to just call the owners up. I mean, the phone number is right on Google Maps, right? You just call them up, and maybe an owner will answer, maybe not, right? So building the list is step one, but calling the owners is step two. Okay. From the list that you build, you could just call the owners and ask them if they'd be interested in getting an offer. I said, would you be interested? Like, look, my name is Stacy. I live in your area, or I have family in the area. I'm very interested in getting into the self-storage industry. So I'm really just calling owners up and seeing if they'd be interested in getting an offer. Like I'm telling you, I don't own one. I'm really trying to buy my first one. And you be as real and as authentic and as vulnerable as you can possibly be when you're talking to your owners, because the owners, they're like regular people like you. They're not, big wigs that own a lot of storage facilities. Typically, these owners only own one or maybe two facilities. I mean, they're just trying to make it like everybody else in the world. So you don't want to sound like you know what you're doing. You want to sound like a real person that's just trying to get into the industry. That's what I do, and that's how I connect with all my owners, and I think it really resonates with them, and that's how I've been so successful in in the industry, is just by being real with the owners. So that's my advice to you when you call the owners. Now, if you buy the course, the Super Simple Self-Storage course, inside that course is a seller call sheet, and on the seller call sheet, there's all the stuff that you should be asking for. It gives you a script on what you could say to the owners, and it gives you all the information that you need so that you can ask the owners for it and run deal analysis on it. Okay, this is the area right here, what everybody gets tricked up on. Building a list of storage facility, that's the easy part. Just go Google it and start calling, start building your list up. Calling the owners and actually talking to them, that is where everybody just gives up. And the truth of the matter is, calling the owners is where most people give up, because they don't want to call the owners because they're afraid of what to say. They might sound stupid or whatever. But the truth of the matter is like the owner, he has no idea who you are. It's just like Taylor calling up and saying, hey, my name is Taylor. I live in the area. I'm interested in buying a storage facility. I don't own one yet, but I'm just calling all the owners to see if you'd be interested in working with me. Maybe give me a chance to let you just, give you an offer. And then just pausing and letting the owner think about it for a second and just telling you yes or no. Now, we do this every day. I'm telling you, all my virtual assistants, they're calling 20 to 30 owners a day, and trying to see if we can get an offer. So this is just a numbers game. That's it. It's just a numbers game. And typically it takes around 50 calls to find one owner that wants an offer. Okay, so if you only call 20 people, and they all said no, and then you gave up, well, then you just essentially screwed yourself over. Okay, so typically it's 50 owners. It's not 50 phone calls, it's 50 owners, okay, that you talk to. All right. And I would say most storage facility owners do not answer the phone. They don't. I say 80% of all owners do not answer the phone, especially in secondary and tertiary markets. Okay, so make sure that you don't give up on this, but this is where the grit is going to come in. This is where it's like, I'm just going to hunker down. I'm going to sit and start calling owners. Okay. And then this is where you ask the owners if they would be interested in getting an offer. Okay. And if they say, yeah, I'd be interested in getting an offer, and say, okay, great. I need this, this, and this. The deal analysis for deal analysis. I don't need your P&L and your balance sheet. I don't need your rent roll. I don't need your all your information about your tax returns. I don't need all that, because if you need that from an owner that's talking to a stranger on the phone in order to run deal analysis, all you're going to do is just scare everybody off. Okay, no owner is going to be like, oh yeah, who are you again, Taylor? Yeah, here's my tax returns. Here's my rent roll. Here, just take it all. Nobody's going to do this. Okay, so we have just a list of things that we ask for that they typically know off the top of their head. But if they don't, it takes them a couple days to get them. So we'll ask them, like, these are the things that we need. If you don't know that right now, then we'll just email you the list. You could just get it to us. All we need is the numbers right now. But just know that if we come up with an offer that's kind of near where you're at, we're going to need to have to see proof of what you're saying. So, that's because, like, if you're going to have to go to get a bank and get a loan, we're going to need proof. But for right now, just give me your numbers and I'll make you an offer. It's just an offer. That's it. Okay. So you use the caller sell sheet. I'm sorry, the seller call sheet, and that tells you everything that you need in order to run deal analysis. Now, whatever you use to run, if it's going to be our deal analyzer or somebody else's deal analyzer, whatever you need, those numbers are yours. I mean, you have to get those from the owner and input them into the deal analysis so you can run the deal analysis. Okay, but you'll need some way to run deal analysis, whatever it is. Okay. Okay, so that's it. Now, what I wanted to talk about real fast is that I'm telling you that the way that we do it is we build a list, we call the owners, we ask them if they're interested in getting an offer, we get the information from them, and then we make the offer, right? This is how we internally do it. This is how I've done all my deals, okay? Now, you can go online and look for, I know y'all are already doing this anyways. You're in some sort of a Facebook group, and you see a wholesaler with a deal. So you're like, you're all putting your email addresses down, and you're like, yeah, send me the information. And the wholesaler, I would say, 80 to 90% of the time, never sends you what you need. Or if they do, you have to go through all that information. You have to pull that information out, but you're still going to have to run your own deal analysis. But a lot of times when if they're wholesaling, then you're going to get a big package, and you're going to have to go through and be able to input all the information that you get out of their package into your own deal analysis. Do not ever, ever, ever trust the deal analysis of the wholesaler. And also do not ever, ever, ever trust the analysis of the broker, of the real estate broker that's listing the property, because I can tell you that most real estate brokers have never sold a storage facility before, and they have no idea how to run commercial deal analysis, and they're just putting their own numbers together anyways, right? So you have to call the broker up, talk to the broker, tell the broker that you're interested in their deal. Please send me the package of all the information. Take the information that they give you and then put it into your own deal analysis. And then run the deal analysis on your numbers, not on their numbers, right? So for instance, like I just met with the owner yesterday on Zoom, and he's making $160,000 a year, and his expenses are $40,000 a year. Now we run our numbers at almost like, we run them at 38% for expenses, and he's only at $40,000. His expenses are really low. Why are his expenses so low? His expenses are really low because he's the one that's managing it. He's answering the phones. He's the one that's, doing all the work. He's the boots on the ground person. He's not doing he doesn't have a phone person. It's not passive income for him. It's him. These facilities are his life and his livelihood. And so he has his expenses as low as possible, but those aren't your expenses. But I can guarantee you that the broker or the wholesaler is going to be using his expenses. Another thing is the broker and the wholesaler are going to be using his taxes. But when you buy that property for double or triple what he's trying to, what he bought it for, your taxes are going to be completely different. All right. So your expenses need to be your expenses, not the wholesalers or the brokers. Now, my team has called and put offers in, I would say, at least half of the facilities on Crexty already. Okay. Anything that's less than $3 million, we know every facility that's on Crexty. We've already put offers in on pretty much every single one of them that are storage facilities. Okay. And the offers that we put on have all been rejected. Okay. Why? Because what the property is listed for is like way more than what, we're willing to pay based on our expenses. And, and so it's not working. I mean, that when you put a facility online to be sold, I mean, you have to pay the realtor fees, the closing fees. I mean, you have to calculate at least 10% to close that deal. So that's why a lot of times properties are like super high. And so the numbers don't work. I mean, the numbers don't work. And then when we put offers in, like we put an offer in for like $900,000 on a property that was listed for $1.6 million. Okay. So you have to think about, do I really want a deal? Okay. And how much of a spread do I want on those deals? And I'm going to tell you, online, the spreads are super thin versus going to owners directly. So you can go online and you can go look at facilities online. You can go and talk to wholesalers. Remember, that wholesaler also has a fee that he's trying to make this in the same respect as that broker also has a fee that they're trying to make. All right. So that's why a lot of times the prices are not good. And then also wholesalers and brokers, what they do is they give this price to this owner, and this price is stuck in their mind. And I've seen it firsthand with my students. One of my students bought a facility for $3 million. We ran the numbers at $6 million. She wanted to list it with the Marcus and Miller trap. They told her $7.2 million. We listed it out, and every offer that she got was at $6 million. She ended up not selling because she has in her mind $7.2 million. So this happens, I'm telling you, over and over and over again. So that is why I feel it is best to go directly to owners and talk to owners so that you can negotiate. You can come with your own price. You can put in 5 different offers. You can offer seller financing. You could just make creative deal structures. You can get to know the owners. You can go meet the owners. When you have these middle players in all your deals, you have to deal with the middle player. And the middle player a lot of times screws the deal over. It's true with accountants, with CP, I mean, it's with not CP, but like your accountant, your attorney. Like I have one owner that's like everything he has to go ask his attorney. And he wanted to take the owner financing deal. And then he asked his attorney, his attorney said, don't take the owner financing deal. So when you have that middle player, it screws the deal up. And the more middle players that you have in your deal, the farther of a chance you're going to have to actually get a deal under contract. So you want to minimize those middle players, what you want to do. Okay. So that is stage 1. That's stage 1. Okay. And then obviously right here, negotiate. Okay. Now, when you make your offers, make like at least 4 offers. Okay. And so, so then you're negotiating the contract with the owner. And I'm going to tell you, this negotiation process, this is where you're going back and forth. And this could take a month, if not longer sometimes, you know, to negotiate. Like we have one deal right now in Louisiana where, I mean, we have been negotiating this deal for a month. And, so this takes a long time, and you have to be really good and be really on top of, like, when they come back with the counter offer, rerunning those numbers, looking at the deal again, and then putting an offer in that may be better for you, not for them, you know, or accepting their offer if it's a fair offer, you know. But this negotiation process is super tricky and super hard. So you want to make sure you get really good at that, you know. And the way that you negotiate is by knowing and understanding deal analysis. Right, knowing and understanding, and then also when you make 4 offers, you're getting the wheels on the owner's mind, or, you know, the broker's mind open, right? And they're starting to think like, wow, like, okay, I didn't realize I could make this much money. I didn't really think about seller financing. I didn't think about, like, you know, doing some sort of a creative deal structure. Let me meet this person and let's just hash it out. I just talked to another student earlier. I was like, let's just hash this out, because it's been going back and forth. And I'm like, let's get on Zoom and hash this out. We obviously both want to work together, so let's just work this out. So we get on Zoom and we talk about it, or the student goes to the owner and talks about it. Okay. So that's how it works. Okay. So that is stage 1, right? Negotiating. And then the goal obviously is to get it under contract so that you can move to stage 2. But this, remember, I just went through the entire stage 1. And this is the hardest part of the deal, right? This is the hardest part. So you can go on Crexy, you can go through a wholesaler, or you can do what I love, which is calling the owners directly. Okay. And so this is stage 1. So hopefully this inspires you to get out there and start doing these steps. Right. And then if you buy the course in the Deal Analyzer, it's going to dive super deep into how to do all this. All right. All the questions that you have in your mind right now that Stacy didn't answer is because it's all inside the course. Okay. So that was our session for today. I talked about the 4 stages of investing in self-storage, and then I went a little bit deeper into stage 1. Okay, so hopefully this inspires you to get out there. Let's try to get out there, you know, and make 2024 a success. You know, I'm here to help you on your investing journey. So just, you know, let us know whatever we need to help you move forward. Okay. And I will see you guys next session of a totally different topic, totally different information. I'll come up with something to teach for next week as well, too. If you have any suggestions, you know, let us know. I'm open to whatever you guys want to learn. Post it into the Facebook group. And then, you know, give me some suggestions and I'll teach that as well on a Wednesday session. Okay. All right. Take care. Have a good day. Bye.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Storage Nerds. Hope this informative conversation inspired you to go out there and jump into this highly profitable business venture that people rarely talk about. Get more tips on storage space investing at www.stacyrossetti.com. Don't forget to subscribe to the show and leave a rating. Together, let's build that thriving passive income one storage space at a time. Until next time.